Tell me what you mean by qualified and unqualified men.
So yeah, in my last interview with the ladies at Sharing My Truth podcast, I had mentioned that there were men that were considered qualified and there were men that were considered unqualified, and that their experiences with women tends to be radically different. The men that I would say are qualified are typically men that have good to great income. They meet a certain height requirement, typically 6 feet or above. They're in fairly decent shape, fairly charismatic, confident, desired by multiple women and respected by multiple men. Those are the men that I would say, and most people would kind of identify as quote unquote qualified to have options with women, to be able to push off commitment, to be able to sleep with multiple women simultaneously at the same time and never have to lead towards marriage. These are the quote unquote men that qualify to get access to women's sex, softness, love, intimacy, etc. Whereas the men that are quote unquote unqualified, they're usually missing multiple of those check boxes, if not all of them. So, yep, go ahead.
Where would you put men, like, because there's certain men in just certain environments where they're broke, but they get a lot of women. Like, you know how it is, the salsa instructor, like the club promoter. You know what I mean? Where would you put them as qualified or unqualified if, like, they don't have the money, but they still get women? You know, the bartender in LA, they got all the actors. But yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. For men that don't check off all the boxes, you typically have to be exceptional at least one or two.
Okay.
So the men that are unqualified are pretty much not doing anything in any of these areas significant to like kind of stand out. So for instance, the guy that's really, really tall and is like pretty charismatic and has nothing else of the things I kind of listed, he'll do well because he's exceptionally tall and he knows he's a good talker, right? Yeah. So we see it. Whereas the guys who can't talk to women, the guys who are not that tall, the guys that don't make any money, the more it gets to a point where she either friend zones you or doesn't even acknowledge you.
Yeah. You ever meet a guy that gets girls to pay his rent? I've seen that.
Oh, I'm jealous of them guys, man. Jealous of them guys.
Can you talk more about attraction triggers and define what they are?
Yeah, so they're different, obviously on an individual by individual level, but the things that I just listed are typically from the female perspective, the female side, typically some of the key cues that they're looking for. So from an attraction trigger perspective, women typically don't want to get with the guy that they can't sense that other women also think is attractive. So the problem that we're kind of having in terms of like this whole topic and this discussion that's going on, when you think about it, is like these women are only picking men that they believe other women want and trying to ensure and guarantee that guy is going to be monogamous and with them for the rest of their lives. So their attraction triggers are putting them in a small pool, dealing with a small pool of men that they're often being disappointed with as a result. Whereas on the flip side with men, many of their attraction triggers, a lot of women confuse that because they assume that they would be the same. Oh, I make so much money. I make this much money. I have this degree. I got my own car. I got this. I got that. None of those things apply to men, especially men that have those things. So men, many of our attraction triggers are softness, femininity, nurturing, the desire to potentially start a family, a willingness to be able to listen and learn from him and not feel like she has to constantly lead or dominate. Those are a lot of the things that men are typically looking for, and particularly attracted to. So for whatever reason, it seems like a lot of men aren't checking off the boxes in terms of attraction triggers that women are typically looking for. And unfortunately in the West, that's probably true to an extent because a lot of the women, unfortunately, in this country and in Canada and in UK and in Australia and other Western countries, they don't desire the need to develop those things that men are attracted to. They just project what they want onto the man and expect him to expect the same from them.
You know what's interesting? Because I've interviewed 1,000 women on my show. And the women that I met that I would say had the highest femininity, there's always like a reason. There's always a but. Like it was very necessary. Like they either highly struggled with weight or had children. So it seemed like it was kind of made out of like necessity. And I was in London, so I was interviewing women from all over the world. But I would find if there was ever like really, really high femininity, there would always be a catch. Is that what you've seen? Like, is that what you've
Oh
seen?
man.
Or maybe you've
Oh,
seen other things.
it's a mix. It's a mix. So sometimes it's
Yeah.
actually because of religious upbringing and them being very sheltered and still sheltered. Um, because typically, and you'll see it, and you've probably talked about it on your show, there's definitely instances where they had a great father that was very caring and very protective. And, before you knew it, they ended up, going to college and all of that went out the window, right? So yeah, sometimes life humbles them. Sometimes it's because of their background and what they're still remaining in. I definitely agree that it's rarer to find in Western countries for sure. But I've also experienced women who tend to stay to themselves and are not really in the mix. And I don't want to say that they're female loners, but they normally won't catch the eye of most men unless they just happen to
Yeah.
be in the same proximity.
Yeah. Of the men that you said are like able to cheat, in your experience, what percent do? So not what you've read, not what you've seen online, like in your personal, what you've seen in real life.
If I had to put a genuine, true number on it, I would think 30 to 40% of men probably have cheated. And this is going to be one of the first shocking things I'm going to say on your show. I think women cheat far more,
Oh yeah.
far more. They're better cheaters. They're more secretive about it. They don't get the same punishments for doing it like men will. So yeah, and even when they do cheat and they admit it to each other, they don't view their cheating the same way they view men's cheating. So this is why they can still remain friends with homegirls that they knew were doing all this stuff on the side. Whereas for a man to do it, they have to destroy his entire life and character and legacy as a result. So yeah, and this is the other thing. When you're a guy that other women, when you're younger, older, that's pretty attractive enough to kind of be around women enough, you'll be the guy that they're cheating with. And you'll start to be like, oh my gosh, like this, how common is this? And you always feel bad and you're like, man, I hope I'm never that guy. And you learn like these guys will never know. A lot of these guys would never, ever, ever know. So I absolutely think that probably 30 to 40% of men cheat or have cheated. And I think that number is probably 50 to 60% of women. And I'm honestly probably being conservative when I say that.
Yeah, and that doesn't include like messages and like I'm assuming you're just limiting it to physical cheating, right? Like
Yeah.
if you included
Yeah.
women having
Yeah.
like a work husband or something else, it would probably be even 80 or 90%.
I
Right?
would, listen, I don't know about 80, 90%, but what I have observed
Yeah.
is that there are other things that I've seen the double standard when the things that they will go off on a man for in terms of cheating or looking
Yeah.
for attention and validation outside the relationship, they have no problem receiving it on their end. If they see that their man, their boyfriend, their husband is liking another woman's picture, they will freak out. But the idea of them making their profile private, they're like, why would I do that? He's controlling. So they just see these things like totally different. Like people liking their bikini pictures that are not women, they just was like, that's just normal. But him liking a woman who's half naked or in a bikini it's a problem. So I don't think that they typically see their cheating and their seeking validation outside the relationship in quite the same way. So that's why I actually think the numbers are somewhat skewed to be a little bit higher.
And in your experience, who's more likely to forgive cheating, men or women?
Women, but I think women and men are in similar territory with that. I think it's only the men who aren't operating from a scarcity mindset that have no problem with being like, get out. I'm good. I will never see or talk to you again. Only the men that know that they can easily replace her typically will do that. Most men, if they know, it's going to be very difficult to replace her, I have all this other stuff going on, they'll just kind of endure and try to go to therapy and try to work it out. Whereas a lot of women, despite the horrible stats in terms of how much they initiate breakups and divorces, oftentimes it's not after the first time. It's usually after repeated offenses that they eventually get to that point where they get jaded, they change their feelings, and then they start planning their escape when the whole guy thinks that we've moved on from it.